Tessa Renwald occupied the last row of the tactical simulation hall, her human eyes following every shifting hologram projected across the enormous stellar map. Around her, nearly 70 cadets representing 12 different alien species leaned forward in focused silence as Instructor Velk lectured on the Catherine Siege, a historic engagement studied throughout multiple star systems. This battle, Velk explained, was considered the perfect defensive stand. Using all four of his articulated limbs, Velk gestured toward glowing fortifications suspended in the air. General Morith deployed his forces here, here, and here. The siege endured for 14 full cycles. An unbreakable defense. Tessa remained quiet, tapping her fingers lightly against her datapad while staring at the formation. Velk continued confidently. The defenders succeeded because they controlled funnel points, creating lethal kill zones that forced attackers into predictable routes. This is flawless strategy in action. A cadet named Pyrrhus raised a crystalline limb. Instructor, was there truly no vulnerability in this formation? None ever identified, Velk replied without hesitation. Not even in our most advanced theoretical simulations. That was when Tessa finally spoke. Her voice was calm, but it carried clearly across the chamber. It can be defeated in 6 moves. Every head turned. Even Velk paused. Excuse me, Cadet Renwald. 6 moves, Tessa repeated as she rose slowly from her seat. The formation has a critical weakness. Permission to approach the map. Velk gestured dismissively. By all means. Show us what centuries of scholars somehow missed. Tessa stepped toward the towering hologram, her comparatively small human figure dwarfed by the projection. She reached into the light, her hands moving with deliberate precision. First move, she said. You don't attack the fortifications at all. She highlighted an empty sector beyond sensor range. You deploy long-arc artillery here. Velk scoffed. Those rounds would land in dead space. Exactly, Tessa replied calmly. And that's the point. The impact zones force the defenders to adjust their western flank to investigate, Tessa continued. That's your second move, simultaneously stage a feint against the northern supply line. Not a real assault, just enough energy signature to register as a level 4 threat. With fluid motions, she redirected glowing vectors across the holographic map. The once pristine defensive layout began to shift. Third move, she said, you collapse the eastern funnel by remotely detonating their own minefields. The Catherine relied on proximity triggers, effective, but exploitable. Velk's expression hardened, curiosity replacing his earlier amusement. Continue. Fourth move. Deploy thermal distortion drones in the southern quadrant. Their sensors will interpret it as advancing troops. Her hands moved faster now, reshaping the battlefield entirely. Fifth move. You insert an actual strike team here, into the blind spot created when overlapping sensors adjust for the western reposition. The cadets leaned forward, murmurs rippling through the room. And the sixth move? Velk asked quietly. The insertion team doesn't fight, Tessa answered. They mark the central command hub for orbital targeting. She stepped back. The fortress collapses in 47 minutes. Not 14 cycles. Silence swallowed the chamber. 70 cadets stared at the reconfigured projection, unable to speak. Velk finally exhaled. That's not possible. It is for humans, Tessa said evenly. With respect, Instructor, this is how we fought on Earth long before we reached our own moon. We were never the strongest, so we learned to outthink enemies who relied on power. At that moment, Commander Threx entered the chamber, his rank insignia glowing brightly. I've been observing, he announced. Cadet Renwald, run the simulation at full parameters. Tessa nodded and activated the tactical AI. The hologram surged into motion. Forces shifted exactly as she predicted. Defensive lines fractured. The legendary fortress collapsed in 43 minutes. The room erupted. Cadets shouted in disbelief. Velk stood frozen, staring at the impossible result. Threx approached Tessa. Your species has been here only 9 months. How does a first-year cadet dismantle doctrine that stood for 3 centuries? Tessa met the commander's gaze without hesitation. Because humans come from a world where everything tries to kill you, she said. Predators. Climate. Disease. Even the plants. She gestured toward the ruined hologram. We didn't evolve to be the strongest. We evolved to adapt. We learned to recognize patterns others overlook, because missing a pattern meant extinction. Threx listened in silence as Tessa continued. You see an impenetrable defense. I see a system designed by species that never had to fight themselves. The cadets grew still. Humans spent thousands of years fighting other humans, she said. We learned deception, misdirection, and psychological warfare. Every trick. Every exploit. We learned how to win wars before the first shot was fired. Threx remained quiet for a long moment. Then his voice echoed through the chamber. From this moment forward, every tactical doctrine taught at this academy will be stress-tested against human strategic analysis. He turned. Class dismissed. The cadets filed out in stunned silence, whispering among themselves. Velk lingered behind, finally approaching Tessa. I underestimated you, he admitted. Most do, Tessa replied calmly. That's their mistake. She walked toward the exit, leaving behind the shattered remains of 3 centuries of unquestioned military doctrine glowing in the air. The Deathworld girl had spoken. And the galaxy was listening.